The soaked seed secret that summons worms from yards away and turns dead soil into black gold fast. What if the secret to thriving, nutrient-rich soil wasn't in a fertilizer bag, but already sitting in your kitchen pantry? A few soaked seeds, that's all it takes to set off a natural chain reaction that transforms dull, lifeless dirt into dark, living black gold. Gardeners everywhere are discovering that this simple, chemical-free method doesn't just feed plants, it calls earthworms from yards away, creating a self-sustaining ecosystem that works for you 24/7. Once you understand how and why this trick works, you'll never look at a handful of beans or rice the same way again. Why worms are the unsung heroes of every great garden. Earthworms are the quiet powerhouses beneath our feet. Every tunnel they dig helps loosen compacted soil, letting air and water reach plant roots with ease. Every mouthful they eat gets broken down into nutrient-packed castings, the black gold of organic gardening. These castings are loaded with nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and beneficial microbes that fuel plant growth naturally. The more worms your soil has, the healthier your plants become. Their constant movement also helps mix organic matter evenly through the soil, preventing waterlogging and improving texture. When you have worms, you're essentially running a full-time underground fertilizer factory. One that doesn't cost a dime to maintain. That's exactly where the soaked seed method comes in. It's like ringing the dinner bell for your garden's most valuable workers. How soaked seeds work their magic. When common seeds such as beans, rice, corn, or lentils are soaked in water, they begin to soften and ferment slightly. During this gentle fermentation, the seeds release natural sugars, amino acids, and a faint yeasty aroma. While that smell might be barely noticeable to us, to earthworms it's irresistible, a sign that decomposing organic matter and thriving microbes are nearby. Worms don't actually eat the seeds themselves. What they crave are the microorganisms that bloom during fermentation. As they detect the scent through the soil, they start migrating, sometimes from several yards away, toward the source. Once they arrive, they feast, tunnel, and enrich the area, leaving behind trails of castings that quickly turn the soil dark, crumbly, and alive. It's a natural process that mimics how organic matter decomposes in the wild, and the best part, you can recreate it right in your backyard with almost no effort. The exact soaked seed recipe for worm-attracting power. You don't need any fancy ingredients, just pantry staples that most people already have on hand. Here's the exact formula for maximum effectiveness. 1 cup of dried seeds. Use beans, lentils, rice, corn, barley, or a mix. The more variety, the better the microbial bloom. 3 cups of plain water, filtered if possible to avoid chlorine that might slow fermentation. Place the seeds in a glass jar or bowl and pour the water over them. Let them soak for 12 to 24 hours at room temperature. Overnight soaking is perfect. You'll know the mix is ready when you catch a faint sour or yeasty smell. That's the fermentation kicking in, the signal that worms can detect underground. Do not soak longer than 3 days, or the mix can become too decomposed and unpleasant to use. Once ready, drain the liquid, but don't throw it away. It's liquid gold for your soil. The water is teeming with nutrients and microbes, so pour it directly onto your garden bed before applying the seeds. Alright, so here's how you apply those soaked seeds to bring in worms fast. First, choose the area where your soil feels tired, compacted, or dry. You know, those spots that could really use an extra boost. Next, sprinkle the soaked seeds lightly across the surface. You don't need a thick layer. Honestly, just a handful spread over a few square feet is enough to do the job. After that, gently work the seeds about 1/2 inch to 1 inch into the soil using your fingers or maybe a small hand rake. This shallow placement helps protect the seeds from birds and keeps them right in the top zone where worms travel most. Now, take the reserved soak water and pour it evenly over the area. This step really amplifies the scent and microbial attraction. Finally, water the spot until the soil feels damp, not soggy, but more like a wrung-out sponge. And to make the environment even more inviting, cover the area with a thin layer of compost, straw, or mulch. This keeps the soil moist, dark, and cool, exactly the conditions worms love. Within 2 to 5 days you'll start to notice worms appearing, sometimes from several feet or even yards away. In moist soil, they can sense those chemical signals remarkably fast, As they tunnel and feed, you'll see the ground texture begin to change. It becomes looser, darker, and richer almost before your eyes. If your soil is especially dry or hard, water daily to maintain that soft, moist environment. Consistency is key. Once worms establish themselves, they'll continue working even after the seeds have fully decomposed. Their castings and tunnels keep transforming your garden bed long after you've finished the initial setup. In areas where soil is severely depleted or worm populations are low, you can repeat the process once every few weeks until the ground becomes visibly alive. After that, one application per growing season is usually enough to maintain healthy, thriving soil. Here's where the soaked seed method truly shines. It doesn't just attract worms temporarily, it encourages them to stay and reproduce. Once they find a reliable source of organic matter and moisture, worms start multiplying, creating a long-term soil improvement cycle. To keep your worm population happy, continue feeding the soil organically. Add compost, mulch, or kitchen scraps regularly, and avoid chemical fertilizers or pesticides that can disrupt their activity. You can even lay a piece of damp cardboard or burlap over the seeded spot. Worms love the cool, dark shelter, and you'll often find them congregating in large numbers beneath it. Over time, this steady population of worms turns even the hardest soil into a soft, crumbly loam, the kind that holds moisture perfectly and supports strong, resilient plant roots. The transformation is both visible and lasting. While commercial fertilizers may deliver quick bursts of nutrients, they can't create living soil. The soaked seed method, on the other hand, builds a living ecosystem from the ground up. The worms, microbes, and decomposing matter work together to continuously improve soil structure and fertility without harming the environment. What starts as a small, humble experiment soon becomes a full-scale natural engine of growth, and you'll notice the results in your crops. Plants grown in worm-enriched soil are not only greener and stronger but also more resistant to pests and drought. It's a win for your garden, your wallet, and the planet. Try this method once, and you'll see why seasoned gardeners swear by it. With just a cup of seeds and a bit of water, you're activating the power of nature's own engineers. Whether you're growing vegetables, flowers, or fruit trees, earthworms will give your soil that deep, dark richness that every gardener dreams of, naturally and sustainably. So go ahead, grab those pantry seeds, soak them tonight, and give your garden the feast it deserves. Watch as the worms come crawling in, the soil turns darker, and your plants thrive like never before. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Crop Corner for more practical gardening hacks and natural soil secrets. Share this trick with fellow gardeners who want to grow smarter, greener, and more naturally. Together, let's turn every patch of soil into living black gold.